All right, guys, totally excited about today. Today, I'm bringing in one of the most dynamic entrepreneurs I've probably ever met, Mr. Rodrigo Schiavo, on to Whole Life Millionaire today. Thank you so much for coming on, Rodrigo. Welcome.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you very much for inviting me.
You are one of the most energetic, dynamic people I know. Your heart is huge, and I cannot think of a better person that I would call a Whole Life Millionaire. So let's dive right in to this amazing story about Rodrigo. Sound good?
Very good, my friend.
So you live here in Orlando, but obviously you're not from Orlando. Where are you from?
I'm Brazilian. I'm originally I born in São Paulo, in the countries of São Paulo, Assis.
Right.
But I live most of my life in the northeast of Brazil.
Now, what you're known for right now is just being such an amazing father, husband, entrepreneur, member of the community here. But where did that all start from in Brazil?
That side came from my dad. My dad is a very commercial person. He's a salesperson, a good salesperson, very respect. And I learned a lot from him because when I was young, if I don't get good grades through the semester, I have to travel with him and I just have a short time for my vacations. So then, I learned a lot with him in the countries of Brazil, in the northeast of Brazil, which is very poor part of Brazil. So you learn many things, like what is important, how to treat people, clients, things like that. So from my 9 years old, I did my first business. Used to do in my neighborhood, we have 3 buildings, one next to the other. Mm-hmm. And I used to do what we call gin, which is it's like an ice cream inside of, it's a popsicle here.
Right.
Yes, the popsicle. And then we sold in my building, then the building next to my house, and the other building. So I give a cooler full of popsicle to the security guy, and he's selling the building. He could eat as much he wants, but he needs to sell the. So I was doing that, selling kites, things like that in my neighborhood. So this is in my blood.
So entrepreneurialism is in your blood, and I mean, at 9 years old, you were already leveraging people.
Because that's something that comes from inside of us. When we see, it's funny because when I saw the guy who sell the ice cream, the popcorn in the street, we used to play palitinhos. It's 3 stickers, mm-hmm. and I have to put some stickers in my hand, and you need to guess how many stickers I have, and I have to guess yours. Who wins, get the ice cream. So when I start selling, I said, this guy is my competitor. So I start playing with him, and I got full of ice cream and brought to my house. So this is born, I don't know, this is inside of him. No one's teaching me you have a competition, you need to do this and that to compete with this guy. No, that's naturally.
So, I've read this book, and it's funny, I keep talking about it. It's called Never Hire a Bad Salesperson. And in this book, it talks about this concept of drive. And drive consists of these 3 things, right? So drive can be, number 1, is this desire for excellence. Just excellence for the desire of excellence. Just being good for the sake of being good at something. And the second level of drive is this idea of high levels of competitiveness. It's just born in you. And this third level that they talk about is this idea of a high level of positivity, optimism. And you seem to have all of that at a young age. At 9 years old, you were competitive with the folks that were doing what you were doing. You seem to believe, even at 9 years old, that you could launch a business.
Exactly. To be honest, I never had a job in my life.
So really?
Yeah, I always have my own companies, and I always work with myself since my first business and until today. This is something that we have in our family blood. If we look to our uncles and and my daddy's side, everybody's a kind of entrepreneur and have been, making by their own and things like that. So I think we got raised in an environment that it's better you have your business and you work for yourself than got a job and be very well planned, and then everything needs to go fine during this whole journey. Mm-hmm. So when you know what to do something and you do right, so then you can trust in yourself.
I love that. Bet on yourself.
Exactly. So when something goes wrong, you know what to do. Because you have learned through the experience, sometimes through the failures. Because no one only win, 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 win all the time. Like sometimes you have a lot of loss, and that's okay. Like because there is no loss to me. Like either you learn or you win. That's the two things that's gonna happen in any adventure or venture capital, whatever you do. That's the two things that's gonna happen. Either you're gonna learn something new, better, or you're gonna win.
So it's win or learn. That's ingrained in you.
Yes, because like even when things go wrong, that means not necessarily was a bad thing. So sometimes it's a good thing, especially in my case, which I have my life based on God purpose. Like I believe on that. Like if you uh, lay your plans and everything in the hands of God, like sometimes the journey will be tough, things like that, but He will be with you all the way. And because of that perspective, like I believe that if I believe in God and all that, like He will teach me many things. And in this way of teaching, there is many things that sometimes happen that you didn't want to happen. But that's part of the journey. Like, if you do not learn on that time of your life, down the road, He cannot do the same lesson again. And if you believe He's in control of everything and you believe that God is powerful to control things, so you will be okay even during the thunderstorms or the difficult times. Like, because like when something bad happen, we just need to ask a question. What's the purpose? Because where you need to learn, or sometimes you just want to shift directions because you go in that direction and you need to change your direction. You need to shift to other directions. So many times it's a bad thing that happens. So to God be able to move you from one place to another place.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. And it's so true because as humans, we think in the short term, but God thinks in the long term. And sometimes the lessons you learn when you're 10 years old, the valleys that you live through when you're 10 years old are the ones that God's preparing you for the mountaintops when you're 20 years old or when you're 50 years old. God has a plan in our lives for that. And I live by these three principles in my own life. And one is that life is 10% about what happens and 90% how you respond. Life is going to get difficult, and you really don't have to have those conversations with people about life is good, don't worry about it. It's life is bad, don't worry about it. It's that life is 10%. The second one is a little bit longer, and it's the one that you're talking about right now. And it says, you are at the place, at the time, experiencing what you're supposed to be experiencing, going through what you're supposed to be going through, with whom you're supposed to be going through it with, at the exact time in your life you're supposed to be going through it, as preordained by the God of the universe. Yeah. That's the preparation season. So why don't we stop there for a second? And why don't you rewind, if you can, to one of those failure moments that in the moment did not make a lot of sense, but today you can look back at and say, that's when God was preparing me for this.
Yeah. There is one very specific that happened with me here in Orlando in the real estate business when in 2009, I was in a prayer room, and this prophet is a good friend of mine. He raised in the middle of everybody, like we were praying, everybody praying, and he said, "Rodrigo, I got a vision with you. I want to share." I said, and then he started saying, I said, "God showed me you going to a government house." Some place which is a building of the government building. I don't know if it's federal, if it's the city or something like that, but it's a government building. And I see you went there to resolve a problem.
Okay.
And when we went there to resolve that problem, and you start like walking in the building, you're supposed to go to a room and you go in a wrong room. But when you get in this wrong room, you're gonna see an auction happen inside of this room, and it is a real estate auction.
Okay.
And he said, like, when this happened, God is telling me to stay in that room until they finish.
Okay.
I want to give you that business. God said that to me, and I said, And then I little forget a little bit because 6 months passed by, and I forgot to pay my ticket, and my driver license will be suspended. You know, got in that point, you need to go in the courthouse to pay.
Yep.
Otherwise, like, you know, have 10 days to do that, or you have your license suspended. I went to the courthouse, and I got in the information, and I said to the lady, I need to pay my ticket. As she said, it is in the 4th floor, 410. You go straight, you're going to see right after the stairs. And then I was talking on the phone, things like that. I forgot to count how many stairs I went up. So I left on the 310. And then when I opened the door, there was a real estate auction happening inside of that, because I see the guy like $100 once, $100 twice, sold to the highest bid.
Right.
And I said, oh my God, this is like what God said, I'm going to see it. And then I closed the door and I stayed there. They finished that day 2:30. And then I went to the lady and said, like, what happened here? And she's like, no, this is a foreclosure sales. Before the property goes to the market, the bank needs to bring to the sales, at public sales. Mm-hmm. And if you do not sell here, then, the bank took over take over the property, and they didn't sell in the market. So, but what are these people all doing here? And she's like, no, they are investors. They are buying here. And the prophet said, like, this business, there is 9 people working this business. Because when I got in the business in beginning of 2009, there is only few people there, And then I went there, I wrote down some numbers from the case numbers. And then I started studying all those cases to see what happened, this and this and that. Like, I got 3 months of studying all that. And I said, oh my God, this is a good deal. Because I see properties being bought for $45,000, the guy is selling for $85,000
Wow.
like 3 months later, 2 months later. And then I called 2 investors and I said, guys, I got a business. This will be the business. I will buy the property, and I sell it. I will sell it. So you guys give me 5% commission on the purchase and 5% when I sell it. And the investor said, oh, that's okay. Let's do it. And then I bought the property, but when I bought the first property, I bought the wrong property. And then I didn't know why. And, to me, like, when we got in the house to talk with the guy, to let them know that the property got foreclosed, the guy said, no, not this property. This property I bought cash. And when I see there was, the name was right, but the legal description was different on the case. So, I ended up buying the wrong property.
Oh, wow.
The property was in Forest City Road, close to on the back of the street, like a very bad property. And I bought the property for $85,000, and then I only was able to sell it 3 months later for $36,000.
Wow, so $50,000 loss, basically.
And I could not lose any money. And then when I got home, like I have one investor sit down next to me here. His wife in the front seat, and the other investor here, and I'm sitting right over here. And then they start talking, and then the guy who was next to me, he said, oh, it was not my fault. Rodrigo was there, he didn't see it, and he said, no, guys, it was my fault. Don't worry, I will pay for the problem.
So you owned it.
I owned it. And I said, like, don't worry, this and that. Like, I calmed them down. I wrote a letter, saying that I own that money for them. I will sell it, whatever the difference is. I need 1 year to pay. But this was the business that God said I would be very successful.
Doesn't sound like you were very successful.
Exactly. So then when I got home after all of this day, that a very busy day, when my wife saw me, she said, what happened? Because my face, I don't know, I lost the money of the house. And she's like, how? I said, I bought the wrong house. But how? I said, I don't know. And she hugged me and said, don't worry. God will help us on that. Like, don't be worried about that. Like, we have surpassed so many things. That's not going to be a problem. And we were in a very bad situation because we came from the mortgage industry. And right before that, like, we don't have mortgage companies anymore. We had a mortgage company. And I was like aimed to this business to be like my saving business, like to save my life. And then, and I said, like, Buona, let's call Franklin because I need to know what's going on to see if God has something to say. Mm-hmm. And then when I called him, and then I said, like, before we start talking, hello, this and that, he's like, when he pick up the call, he said, let's pray. And I said, yes, man, let's pray. I need to pray. He said, so let's pray. And then he started praying. And he said, Rodrigo, have a vision with you. And I said, and what it is, he said, like, I see you inside, like, you know those soap bulbs?
Yep. Soap bubbles?
Soap bubbles, yeah. I see you inside of it. And you're very cautious to this bubble not burst. And you know what I'm seeing here now? And I said, what? And he's like, I'm seeing a needle in the hands of God. He's bursting the bubble and holding in his arm. The guy who was sitting next to you, and he said that he's not who caused the problem. Tell him that I'm the one who caused this problem. I have to restructure the deal you have made. You did the wrong structure. You should not have done the structure you have done. But I will fix this problem. And I said, and I started crying at that time. And I said, without telling him anything. And he said, like, Moana is next to you. And this friend is from Brazil. And I said, yeah, she's next to me. She's pregnant. I said, really? Yeah, she's pregnant. Tell her to do a birth exam test tomorrow because she's pregnant. I saw God take you in his hand and throw inside of her belly.
Ah.
And the next day, I have to come back to Brazil. I have to go to Brazil to see my dad doing the first heart surgery.
Oh my gosh. So
Yeah.
just every piece of stress you can have on your life is showing up right now.
In 2 days. Because, and then I went to Brazil, I have to be with my dad in his first surgery, heart surgery, very complicated surgery. And, with all of that in my mind. But in the next day I left full of joy because like God had said, he was the one who caused that and he will change. So I didn't do anything because he said that. 3 months later, the investor was sitting in front of here. He came back to my office and said, like, Rodrigo, I'm not going to let you down. Like, let's buy another properties. You need to recover this money. And I said, like, but he said, like, let's buy in the market. Let's forget about those things on the courthouse. And said, Zé, I lost the money, but there we're going to make a lot of money. Believe me. And said, so that's okay, but I'm not going to give 5% to 5%. What we're going to do, we split the profit in the middle. Whatever is the cost for the property and the improvements we sell, we split 50-50. I said, that's okay. So then he put the money on March 2010.
Okay.
$350,000 he invested with me. And in December 2010, I have 1.1 million in the bank account.
In your personal bank account?
No, in
that person?
Us together. Yes,
okay.
Because we didn't take any money. It's just to.
So you basically doubled your money.
Yeah, my side, like if I had done in the structure that I had done before, I made my math. I would make like $80,000 in that year. So the way that God changed everything, I made on that year more than $300,000.
Right. So when we look at what you just said there, here's what happens is you went in with great intention to do a good deal. And you gave your investors you basically said, I'll take a commission. You guys will keep all the profits.
Because that's what's the problem. My first lesson with God is this. After this day, I learned one thing. We can never, ever in our life think with our belly. Even if you are in the worst situation in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Never think, forget to think with your mind. Because you need to understand your value and you cannot give it away for nothing.
Mm.
And thank God I have God. Because in this situation, he fixed my problem. But some people sometimes doesn't trust that. So then it's a little bit more difficult.
Well, I mean, there's so many profound lessons in what you're saying. Number one is having faith really matters. Because the fact that you don't have to believe that you're in charge. All men have to face the same question. There is a God, or I am that God. For 19 years of my life, I believed that I was that God. There was no God, or that there was a God and he didn't want me. That was more of what I believed. I wasn't good enough for God. So therefore, I was quote unquote the God. And it meant that I was going to determine my success. And I knew for the first 19 years of my life that if it was up to me, I was doomed. But that the God that was good didn't want me. Now, when I found my faith, here's what I realized. It's not up to me anymore. That through the good and bad times of my life, there is someone going ahead of me. there is an actual plan for my life that is right and just and good. And that when I lean on his understanding, not my understanding, my path actually smooths out. And it seems like when you were in the worst place, you've understated it. Your wife is pregnant. Your father's going through heart surgery, and you just lost $30,000 of someone else's money, and you have no ability to pay it back. That's where you are in the season of your life.
Exactly on that moment. Because our mortgage company, we made like good money on the mortgage company, but resolving all the problems and everything, because I don't want to be in default, in the loans that I have, things like that. So I negotiate with everybody. So we end up reduce our monthly expense from to minimum as possible. But in the end of the day, it was very tight, and I lose that money on that time. It's because not only the money you lose, but the problem is to you need to be remotivated again,
right?
And forget about leave that to be behind and look forward again, without leaving this past. Because some people sometimes so attached to the past, they cannot leave the present, neither think about the future, because if it was not that hurricane in 1989 that had destroyed my life, my house, I should be very good today. And we are 2025, and they still live in that, back in the days. So I have to leave that behind. But that's the good thing with God. The way he does, is always there is a Bible verse say, usually I don't know the Bible verse very well in English because my main language for the Bible is Portuguese.
Say it in Portuguese. Do it.
It say when you're walking away, you're gonna hear a voice on the right and the left side, but you're gonna see you're actually gonna look to the right and to the left, and you're gonna see a voice behind you and say, "No, go straight because this is the way." So that's the good thing. When you know God, you trust Him, and you leave things in His hand. Because many times we try to look to the right and to the left, and if it was not Him saying no, keep straight because that's the way that's where I want to send you, where I want you to go. That's different. And God will present Himself to you the way that you believe what He is. It's if sometimes you don't have a relationship and things like that. It's easy. There is a easy prayer I always say to my friend, how I can have a relationship with God close like that. There is a very easy prayer. You're gonna pray this in your bed, God, let me know you more. Let me be close to you. Let me understand you. I want to be close to you. That's it. It's a private, secret conversation, and He will listen, because He will see, the bottom of your heart. He will see that you want to know Him more, so He will make a way. You don't need to be worried about, anxious for anything, because He will do in the way that you understand that He's real. He wants to be with you. He wants to hold your hand in the difficult times, because we as a human, as Jesus said, in the world we're gonna have affliction, but be a good spirit. I won the world. So it's what we need. This, if we believe in the eternity, we have to understand that we are here just for a period of time.
That's right.
And we cannot make this life so tough, even for ourselves, because sometimes we don't forgive ourselves, and you can make a mistake. But you know how to. You have to forgive yourselves. So don't make the life so hard on top of you. I always talk this to my kids, because it doesn't worth it. The world will seek from you many things already. Why you gonna put yourself in you challenge your own self, and so that's when you walk with God, it doesn't mean that you're not gonna have any problem, but most of the time, 99% of the time, the problem is for your good. When you did it, as you said, in a good heart, with a good intention, all that, God sees everything. So then He make a way.
Yeah, there's a verse in the Bible. It's crazy because I didn't bring you on to talk Bible talk with Dan, but this is where it's going, so I'll take it. And it's crazy that you're I mean, I don't know if I've had 4 people on so far, all 4 somehow brought in their faith into their success. Like it's one's not without the other. It's really interesting. But there's a verse in the Bible that says, I will do all things for good for those who love me. So if you seek after God, even the things that you think are terrible, and like me, I was abused as a child, terribly abused as a child. And when I was growing up, I used to think that that was the worst thing. And I was the worst person. And now I look back. Well, let me back up. When I was in my 30s, first started having children, I started to understand it. And then when I got into my 40s and now I just turned 50, I actually look back at my past, some of the worst days of my life, being abused as a child, and I'm grateful for it. And here's why. I've been able to use my pain to connect with people that I never would have been able to reach or connect to before because of the experiences I had in my life. And that was God sowing seeds of my ability to serve him and serve people at a super high level that I wouldn't experience for 30 and 40 years later. And I'm actually grateful for it. So as we talk about, this trust in God you've had, there had to have been a time in your life where you made some decisions that were maybe outside that will or not were the decisions that you probably should have made. What happened in those cases? And tell me how you found your way back through that. Because my audience is not perfect. These are people like you and I that have made mistakes, and all they're hearing right now is fail to win. And you're winning right now. I'm winning right now, but maybe they're not winning and they're in that valley. They're in that bad loop. So talk to me about a bad loop and how you found your way back from that.
One thing that described very well that is like wrong partnership.
Wrong partnership. That's a good one.
So, I have been some wrong partnership, and I used to say that the voice of my wife is the closest voice from God.
Yes. If I only listen to my wife, I hate to admit that.
Some partnership, she didn't want me to step into it, and they end up not being a good thing. But in the end of the day, that's very important. I learned one thing from that, and bring back the beliefs again. But I go sit down on the table, and before I went there for any meetings, it doesn't matter the size of the project. I make one prayer. I said, God, if you don't want me to do this business, I don't care. I don't need it. I don't need it. You can cancel it. Can be a very good thing on my eyes. But if you understand that you don't want me in this business, I don't want this business too. So from that time forward, I start not make that wrong decisions anymore. And in the end of the day, sometimes the deals faded away, things doesn't happen, so I don't chase. Once it doesn't happen, if I'm gonna turn 48 years old in March. From long time in the journey, you really don't stress it out some things that didn't come anymore, because sometimes if it's a bad business, a bad partnership, sometimes you're gonna have 3-4 years of headaches. That's like a pain. So it's better never happen, and sometimes this is out of our control because I cannot see someone heart's intentions, and it's not fair from myself being judged people's intention, in order to do business. And we end up creating in a way and do due diligence, things like that we avoid, and it became more smart during the time, and that's one thing that when you have a good partnership, you're gonna fly high, and it's always good. I have many partners, and I have great partners. I have partners with me since 2008.
Right.
And because we have this, this same line of, think in terms of business, movements when things go right and go wrong and things like that, always in the best interest of the company to create the value you expect. So then, you have to have a good partner, otherwise you don't go nowhere. One bad partnership sometimes will be just a loss. And that's one thing in my business. I make this spray, so God help me, because sometimes we don't see people's heart.
Yeah. Well, partnership is key. I mean, it's really important. You can really magnify what you can do in life with a great partnership. No doubt about it, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you have complementing skill sets. But, the number one biggest investment you're ever going to make in your lifetime, who you marry. That's the number one most important partnership you're going to have. And there should be a due diligence period, and there should be checking it out. And that's the reason why you should court. That's the reason why you shouldn't jump right into relationships. You should go through that and do your due diligence, because in your case, how many times, I've heard you once in this conversation and once privately mention how your wife has saved you from bad scenarios. Her intuition, your partnership, her view on life is different than yours. And as a result of you listening to a view that you couldn't see, saved you from trouble.
My wife, many times. The ones that but let me tell you one specific one. We opened a company with a guy to do videos, things like that. And my wife didn't like him. And said, I don't know why you're going to do the partnership with them. Like this, you don't know him and this and this and that. No, you don't know. Like, that's going to be good and this and that. And start moving to the right direction. But in the end of the day, like the guy went back, he stole all of our equipments and like leave us, with nothing. And was not too much money, because like it was like cameras, things like that, like let's say $45,000. But like in the end of the day, like this happened just in 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
So she was because women has sixth sense. So she feels
intuition.
They feel sometimes things that we as a man, we are more practical,
right,
and business person. But and she's like, sometimes this feeling, see something that I don't see. So today, we always be like, when we grow, we have been a team together since we married in Brazil. And my wife has been my side, like, in all kind of business I had. The only one she's not involved is, she doesn't know anything about it. Only when she received like the 1099 from Brazil, right, is the technology business, because she's responsible for all the accounts and everything in the company. So when she received the dividends distribution from there, so she that's the only thing that she knows.
Right.
But she's not involved in the Brazilian business. But in America here, she's involved in all of our business. She is the CFO of the company. So we have been growing together. Like, I believe in family company. I believe in the family structure. There is no better employee or anyone that you have, from since day one of his life until today. Like my kids, like, this one desire of my heart, but of course I let my kids decide what they want to do it for themselves. But, as a father, as an entrepreneur, we want all of your kids work together with you in different positions, but everybody, growing and bring value in different aspects of the company, because like, they are young, I'm getting old, so there is different dynamics that, that will be for their age, is not my age anymore. I'm looking for other things, and, and that's the time, like, you want to invest in someone that that, capable, you can have always open conversation if it's going good or bad. So that's like, I 100% believe in the family business. So we grow together, me and my 3 kids. So we grow. In my expectation, my wife's expectation, everybody one day we're gonna work together. But my daughter, she's in Miami. She just graduated UM. She doesn't want to come back, and she working there. She's doing very well. She's working exterior commerce. She's doing very well.
Yep.
But like, a little bit more, like, it would be hard because she like Miami, and now she's working in Miami. If everything's going fine in Miami, I don't think that she will come back unless we have a business in Miami to work.
Well, that's where I was going to lead you with. You're telling a story that played out in my life. I was recently shared a video. Someone shared me a video of Jerry Jones. You know who Jerry Jones is? No. He owns the Dallas Cowboys football team.
Oh, yeah, no.
And he was living in Arkansas. And his daughter went to college in California, and he missed his daughter. So he was in real estate in Arkansas, and he decided, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to find an excuse to be near my daughter in California. So he went out and bought a bunch of lots and figured he'd develop them. Well, while he was out there in California visiting his daughter with his fake company, developing these little lots, he ended up striking oil. And that became his lifelong passion into oil, which then made him super rich. And then he was able to buy the Dallas Cowboys. But the point of what I'm about to say is, I've always felt this, but I never had anyone say it. And we'll put in the show notes this video from Jerry Jones about that. He said, the greatest joy of his life is the fact that his whole family works with them. And here's the thought. Yeah. My daughter and my son-in-law, they both work for me. I get to see my daughter on the weekends. She's 27 years old. She's busy. She's got life, friends, all that stuff, right? I see her on the weekends, maybe once a month. But I see her 20 days a week 20 days a month here in the office. That's so awesome. When I saw this video from Jerry Jones, I'm like, well, I got my son-in-law, I got my daughter, I got 2 boys. I got to start figuring out how I can get into business with them. And the reality here is that the people you do business with are the people you spend the majority of your time with. Why wouldn't you want it to be your family? I'll give you one more quick story. I owned a coaching company a number of years ago, and there's a woman that is the female version of me. She was abused as a child. She grew up rough, and she has an amazing, beautiful heart. Her name is Charlotte. Charlotte and I ended up going into business together, and she lives up in Maryland. I lived here in Florida at the time, and we connected, and we would talk every day. Well, our company got so big that the parent company that we were working for had to buy us because we were actually bigger than the parent company. So they had to buy us out, offer us jobs within the company. I'm an entrepreneur like you. Didn't work out for me being an employee. I had to go. She ended up staying. And you know what breaks my heart? We don't talk to each other, but barely once a month. And so I got to figure out how to get in business with the people I love. And the most important people that I should be in business with are my family. So thank you for sharing that story.
That's very important. We have this because in the same you have the same way. I think our first priority is family, God, family, and then our business.
Absolutely.
And then when you put your family in your business, it's like you have just 2 things. The family will be the business and the family is the family. And then we have God as our priority. So it's like make much easier. And it's grateful like to, I don't know, like if I can see, to me, like I believe what Jesus did for us is this. He always motivated us to surpass him. Mm-hmm. What he said like, you're going to do greater than me. Because I'm go to the Father, and whatever you ask me here, I will be with the Father. I will give to you. So he literally told us like what he did will be small for what he has prepared for us.
That's amazing.
And then he's motivated you to surpass him, and that's what I think of myself too. I once, for example, Leo, Sarah, and Rebecca, they go far and beyond that what I could get. Because like I will be here to be able to help in this preparation, to be able to think about and concentrate in a business that, you make in a way. We have such great business, and I think if Leo get involved, for example, because he wants that, he wants to be here, he will study this 6 months online. And then next semester he finalized and graduated there in Miami. He wants to stay here. He wants to learn the business. He wants to stay. So he's participating with me because when you go to some meetings and decisions and things that happen, like you are you learn. Then you learn from the real experience, from the real issues, problem that happen, and we need to find a solution because like we are solution. We need to find a solution for every problem. Like we cannot get stuck with the problem, especially when you do a development. Sometimes there is things that happen in a way, and we have to move pipes, things like that, and whatever it is, and you need to find the right solution. And if you're good on it, like you save money, and you make quicker. So things like that is very important because time. When people say time is money, time is money. Like especially if you do a big development and you apply for loans, mm-hmm. and you have governments like delaying things like that, and problems that delay all the things. That's compromise, returns and things like that. So it's very, very, very important that, in this environment, you learn from some kind of experience and see things happen. Because then you understand from the bottom to the top. You need to understand how to sell a house, how a client react inside of their house, because you're not going to build a house without know what the people like.
That's right.
You need to understand materials. You need to understand things. So in the day-to-day business, like the way we do, like it's more important be there than just get any kind of internship just to fill up the your curriculum and things like that.
Yeah. So let's fast forward to where you are right now. I mean, well, let me back up. You said this earlier. You said before you get into any deal, you sit down, you pray, and you ask God for confirmation that you're doing the right things and to back you out if you're not. I think it's easy for someone to do that when we're talking about, I could lose, I'm going to either make or lose $100. I'm going to make or lose $1,000. Those are not the type of deals that you're praying about right now.
Millions of dollars.
And so has there ever been a time in your life, you don't have to tell me the story behind it because, I know what you're, I know that what that could lead for you. So let's keep you out of trouble. Has there ever been a time in your life you've walked away from the big deals because you felt God urging you that wasn't the right thing?
Like, if there is one that happened that was like about to sign the deal and then I walk away, no, that never happened. But in prior conversations that can lead us sometimes advance a little bit, things like that, and then I don't feel comfortable. I get it out. In the end of the day, I see that it was a good idea that we have done. So I can't explain if it was God moving inside of me, but sometimes when you lose that passion, I think it's Him.
Yeah, of course. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I think there's always that Holy Spirit working in your life, and it's going to guide you and move you around. But like, you're talking about big $1 million deals here that have worked out without you, but yet you walked away. I know for me personally, there have been times where I've walked away from opportunities that if I'd have stayed in, I was a 10% owner, that company sold for $138 million, $13 million would have been mine. But I walked away and it worked out. The company made its way. But God didn't want me to make my way that way.
Exactly.
I made my way a different way. And here's the deal. I could have stayed in and I would have had to pay for it. Like either way in life, you pay the price.
Exactly.
The price would have been maybe my marriage, my relationship with my kids, maybe my health.
I will give a perfect example.
Okay.
Before I moved to America, I used to do, I had a motorcycle retail store in Brazil that's tires, helmets, and motorcycle parts. And then I also used to do a lot of parties.
Right. So like DJing or something like that?
DJ, big party.
Okay.
Big parties. And sometimes festival during the summertime, things like that.
Yes.
And when I did my 2 years party, I got home 3 afternoon for the other day.
Mm-hmm.
And then this was 2 years doing this party, like usually during the vacation, the holidays time.
Of course.
Because like in the mid season, it's not good.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got home. Moana was pregnant with Leo. She was laid down in the bed. They were sleeping. Always sleeping. She was pregnant with Leo, and Sarah was sleeping next to Moana. And then when I got home and I see that scene, they are always sleeping, and I got home from the party, this like that, it's a 2 year that, we're celebrating 2 years from this company. I said, like, when I saw that, I said, like, I don't want that in my life. I didn't born for this. Though I went to the bathroom and I turned the shower, and I sit down and I start praying. And I said, like, Jesus, I don't know how you're going to do it. I like it. I make money with the parties. I don't want to do this anymore. I don't know how you can do it. But, I know you are the only one who will be able to take me out of this. And I don't want this for my life. And then next day, I slept next to them. And I wake up 7 a.m. next day with a phone call from a friend of mine. He's a pastor, and he called me and said, Rodrigo, where are you? And I said, like, I'm still here in my house. Yeah, I saw your mama in the supermarket last week. And I said, oh, really? Yeah. She said, like, I'm going to open my church. And he has a church like the size of this studio, a little bit big, like for 15 people.
Right.
And he said, I'm going to open my church. And this guy was executive from a big company in Brazil. And he left everything to open this church. And I said, and I knew it, that was God answering my prayer. And he said, like, we'll be in the next Sunday. Go with me. And then I said, like, I will, Costa. Sunday will be there. For sure? And I said, yes, 100%. 100%, Rodrigo, because I will save your seat next to me. If you don't show up, you're going to embarrass me.
Accountability.
Exactly. I said, no, that's okay. Don't worry, I will be there. And then, like, from that day forward, I changed my life completely. I changed everything. I removed from my life everything I didn't want anymore. I gave the dates for the next shows, we have forward. And those friends, they became the largest event company in my state. They made Beyonce, Igor, my friend, like he fly out after that in the events venture. But I no regret. That exactly what you said. Zero regret, because like I didn't know that what God had prepared for me in His own way. So like let that go was very good for me, because I come back to work with my dad, and then after 1 year and a half from this day, I left to America. God had a totally different plans.
Again, it's really crazy, these reoccurring themes. I was just shared the other day on one of these podcasts, this song that I heard when I was a young man. It was a black gospel song, and it says, eyes haven't seen, ears haven't heard all that you have planned for me.
Exactly.
Because there's so much more still worth fighting for. And it's the idea that God has gone ahead of us. We can't see what He wants us to see. We can't hear what we're supposed to hear in that moment. But yet there's so much more, because, and this is, I wanted to transition. You set it up perfectly for me. You were very successful in Brazil, and you are actually the second person in the last 2 hours from Brazil that I'm going to be speaking to that left Brazil successful to come to the United States.
Actually,
why?
At the time, no, I'm not considered very successful. I had my business, I opened a new business before I leave, which is a distribution company.
Okay.
This company will be big. My retail company was like, has a limit to grow. But this is why I opened the distribution company, because then is a different deal. My dad was a sales representative in 4 states for 40 years. So he used to represent the main factories. So I could buy for a good price. Right. For the same price, for like I can buy 10 tires for the same price that someone can buy 5,000 on the time. Right. Actually, the big buyers, that all of them was my dad's client, and my dad helped all of them. All of them is Millionaire. And everybody, that I know, that the big ones there, start from the ground zero. Right. And they have a lot, was, when my dad passed away, like, was very nice to see how all of those people came to talk with us and tell us the story that, my dad in one of their life, one time, stretch his hand and help them to get out of, trouble, and then make them to be very rich. So a lot of people became huge companies, like, companies that sell in Brazil, like, it's a good money for that type of business, like $10 million in a month. And
that's a lot anywhere.
But but for Brazil, especially, that it is a lot anywhere. But he has some huge numbers that is crazy. But it is. You have to cover many areas in 2-3 different states to get the kind of sales. But you see, like, those people has they are very grateful to my dad. So they even said, when I start my business, they said, like, why you buy from the factory? Because the factory takes like about 20 days to get in my distribution company. Right. They all have a stock there. Said, get my stock and pay what I paid. So they pay the best price. I cannot pay less than them. Right. So then they are so nice with us. And all of them, I have made a good relationship when I work with my dad. Yep. That I made so many friends in the motorcycle business with my dad. When I married me and Moana, we gained 2 houses of gifts, like 2 fridges, 2 range, 2 microwaves, 2 of everything. Because in Brazil, the property doesn't come with the appliances.
Oh, okay. So your housewarming party is appliance party.
So you have some people, and then that this is a blessing. So, but I got in the point that I got uncomfortable with my comfort zone. Like, it was good. I used to have 2 maids in Brazil, but like, I'm not considered like very success. I'm considered success because I could give a good life to my family and all that. But you're not a rich person. Like,
But you weren't poor.
I'm limited. No, not poor. I'm limited in one aspect. I cannot spend or buy something that I want. I have to plan things like that, like back in the days.
Sure.
But not poor. Like when I bought my vacant land in 2004, we bought on the best community there, Alphaville. So see, my dad gave us a very, very good life. Since my 9 years old, we come to Disney. Then like we came. This is considered very rich for Brazil sometimes, but I have rich friends, so like this is why I never consider myself like that. Because my friends in Brazil is there is some friends that they came from a very, very rich families.
Yeah,
so it's different. My dad is a very work hard guy.
Yeah, well, I mean, I hear you, and it sounds to me, even though you're downplaying it, like you had a pretty good life in Brazil, and then you came here.
Pretty good life. No, I can never complain. God was so good with me all of my life, believe me.
So why are all of you, I mean, and I say this, all of you, there's a lot of successful people leaving Brazil to come to the United States right now. And they're leaving. I mean, I know the reasons that this gentleman told me today. He said, I left Brazil to get something I couldn't buy in Brazil. And I said, what was that? He said, security. He said where he was growing up, where he lived, and you'll have to tell me exactly where this is. He says it's the financial district of Brazil. What city was there?
It is financial district of Brazil is Faria Lima, São Paulo.
Yep, he said he was in São Paulo. That's correct. He said the majority of the people that have wealth in that area spend it all on security. Like bodyguards, gates. They can't play with their kids outside. So he actually left his business behind and came to the United States, and he's now working as a sales manager and building his life here with his wife. He said safety and security, his family, was far more important than the money he had in Brazil and the opportunities he had in Brazil. So for me, for you, why did you leave Brazil to come here? What sparked you to come? And it could be a different reason, but I'm curious to hear.
Yeah, I live this type of relationship. I'm very close to, believe like that God has prepared something for me.
Right.
After I finished with the party, start with the company, we start selling good. I was like not comfortable, and I want to do something different. I thought to move to São Paulo, move to João Pessoa, because João Pessoa was growing and they didn't have a motorcycle distribution there.
Right.
So I want to maybe be there to be the pioneer.
Okay.
And reach all that area. So then we are talking. I never thought to move to America. And then one day my wife got to me and she said, like, you don't think if you go to America, start from the zero, it's gonna be good? You feel okay? Like, because like she saw that I'm not feeling accomplished. Like, nothing wrong with my dad. My dad is amazing person. My dad is the type of person that always contributes. He never is less. He's always like, so he's a very nice guy. Never got to step into middle of fights, things like that. He's an amazing guy. And I said, maybe, honey, but because of the parties, I said we did some, we already did like a business venture wrong, and God, took us from that. And like for us, if we go to Gaza with God, is a good, it will be protected. But if we go to United States without God for us, like can be the end of our life.
Oh,
and because there is no success financially, we will justify come here and we break our marriage, for example.
Right.
And destroy our family. So then, and then she said, like, let's pray. Why we don't fasting for 7 days?
Yep.
To see what God's gonna say to us. And I said, okay, if God didn't say anything, we're not gonna go. We understand that He doesn't want us to go. And she's like, God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. So like if he never let one of their people deceive back and then, so he would do the same. If he doesn't want us to go, he would tell us to not go. If he doesn't want us to go, he would tell us to go. So that's okay. So we start fasting. On that time, we already have that vacant lot in Alphaville, and the clubhouse was done. We decided to do Leo's party, first year birthday there, but it was a mistake because we don't have any infrastructure around. So sometimes we have to drive like 20 minutes to get a bag of ice, So because of that, they, gave us extra work, and we were working on the clubhouse, like finalize panels because for my team São Paulo that I cheers, like they are painting and all that. The lady with the cake broke in the middle of the way, and this was our 5th day of our fasting. The lady who's bringing the cake broke the car in the middle of the way in the Avenida Sabiaguaba. They called us. Moana went there with a lady that were working in the party, said like, come with me. I need to pick up a cake. So I'm going to drive and you sit down in the passenger, you hold the cake for me. So the lady came with her, and then when they left the clubhouse there, and she's like, the lady said to Moana, said, Miss Moana, I don't know, God told me to tell you something. And then she's like, so what it is? Because we were on a read for it.
Right.
And then she's, what it is? Tell me. And she's like, oh, she said to your husband to read Genesis 12.
Genesis 12.
Genesis 12.
Okay.
And then she's like, on that time we didn't have the Bible app.
Right.
We could not check like what it is.
Yeah. I remember those days.
We have to wait until we come back home. And then she's like, read. And then Mona said, but God's not saying anything else. And I said, no, Miss Mona, I don't know if it's a good or bad thing. And then she came back. She said to me, I was in the car with her. She said to us to read Genesis 12 when we get back home. So when we got back, we read it. And then like we finished the party. So, but that day, the party, because of that logistic,
yep,
we got home like 2:30 in the morning. And then we forgot to read the Bible on that because we were so tired, like we slept.
Right.
And then we wake up in the next day and then we read. Is the Bible verse that God said to Abraham, said like, go a part of your father's house, go to the land I'm going to show you, I'm going to bless you, everyone is going to bless you, I will bless, the ones that are going to curse, I will curse. And then we understand as an answer from God. And then we start to make some, it's not that we not believe there was God telling us, but we need to make sure that that's really what God wants to do.
Right.
And then I called my mom and my dad next day and said, you guys have a plan to lunch? And then they said no, because on that day I decided to go. I haven't seen anything like schools, nothing. I was in Brazil. When I decided, and I say, because I knew it that God will be with me. But during this period of time, I have to make sure that it is God speaking with us. And then
it's a big decision. It
is, because I will make a decision based only on what God told me there.
Right.
So then I got with my mom and my dad, and I said, Mom, Dad, I'm going to leave to America. God spoke with me. I decided to go. We just prayed and I explained what happened. And my mom started crying, and she said, like, I knew it. And then I said, how you knew it? Because I never in my life I thought to live in America. And she's like, no, I knew it because like 2 years ago, I went to a prayer meeting, me and your sister. And then when we were about to get inside of the house, one lady stand up there and point the finger to me and said, hey, you have a son, and he's married and he has a daughter. And that time I only had Sarah, and he has a daughter. In 2 years, you can write down your calendar. I'm going to take him to America, but I don't want you to stop him to go. And then she said that crying, and she said like, and I knew it because like, now it's 2 years from that day. And then like this was another answer from God from us. And then Sunday, the pastor preached Genesis 12.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Just one after the other.
I spoke with a friend of mine, a missionary in the church, said like, how I do it how you did to take your green card, because this like was in the third day. how he did a green card. And he said, like, you can go in an office here. You don't need to go to Rio de Janeiro because my mother-in-law wants me to go to have a green card. When I went to the interview, I said to the consul, I'm not going to live in America. I have my business here and this and that. The guy laughed because said, like, but why you apply? I said, I didn't know. My mother-in-law applied. She said to go to the United States, it's going to be easy. I said, no. This is a resident permanent card. Only if you're going to live in America. And
oh my gosh.
And he said, like, and the other thing, if you have a green card, now you need to file tax in America. I said, no, can you please cancel it?
So, I mean, look at that. I mean, just over and over and over, God is giving you confirmation of your trip to America.
Yeah, because, like, he wants to make us comfortable that's even if the decision is extremely vulnerable,
right?
He wants us to make sure that he will be in your side. It doesn't matter if it's a bad or good time. He will be next to you. So then, like, during this process, he speak. I think there is a lot of people that will has similar situation or history like mine will be able to confirm with me that during this process, God confirmed many times. Why? Because otherwise you're gonna give up.
Right. Well, I will leave you nor forsake you is very clearly what it says in the Bible. I mean, and when you look at the apostles, you see, all the disciples, the way they kind of went through life, God was constantly confirming that they were doing the right things too. So I can see that in this story as well. And it's crazy to see how involved your wife was too. Your wife was in a leadership role in all the decisions in your life. And by the way, coolest name ever, Moana.
Yeah.
that is the coolest name ever. Now, if I understand correctly, she wasn't actually raised in Brazil.
No, she born in Hawaii.
She's born in Hawaii. Walk me through that. So she's in Hawaii. How do you end up even bumping into this beautiful woman that ends up becoming the world's greatest partner in life and business?
Yeah, she born in Hawaii. Her mother lived there with your first husband, and which is Moana dad. He passed away already in 2014, if I'm not wrong.
Okay.
And she lived there for 2 years. Then they got divorced, and then Monique got back to Brazil, and then Moana stayed in Brazil until she got 8 years old.
Okay.
And then they came back to America.
And that was California?
No, this time they came back to Orlando.
Oh, okay, Orlando.
So they got here, if I'm not wrong, 1989.
In 1989, Moana's in Orlando. You're in Brazil.
In Brazil.
Okay, then where does she go? How old is she now?
Now she's 43.
No, I meant when she's back in Orlando from Brazil.
She was
7 years old?
9 years old.
9 years old.
10 years old. 10 years
10
old.
years old. Okay.
Yeah.
And then now she's in Orlando.
She stayed in Orlando until 18.
Okay.
This is when she went to Brazil. We always say that she went to Brazil to marry me. Because she went to Brazil, she did university in Rio de Janeiro.
Okay.
She didn't want to go to a vacation in Fortaleza. She wanted to stay in Rio de Janeiro with friends and all that. And but her mother and her grandfather kind of obligated her to go because it was a very important client for her mother. So you're not gonna do that. She invited you. You said you're gonna go, and then they made her go. So then we met. We dated. We met. We say like we were a pregnancy. We met. We started dating. We engaged, and we got married in 9 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, was she also raised with a lot of faith? Was she, a Christian as well, or did you guys kind of find God together? How'd that work out?
That is one important thing in Moana's life. And that's why I say, like, when you go and ask this small praise, it's very important. She said one time, she said that one day that she got upset with things, things in life. And she was just 13 years old, and she sit down in the curbside of her house. And she said that she looked to the sky and said, God, if you really exist, you're going to give me a family.
Wow.
So that's the only thing I want. And when you say that to God, you need to understand that the God has only one plan in this earth, and it is the family.
Right.
And the only thing he said, like, multiply and grow in the land that I give. So that creates many families and all that. That was the first project of God with the man. But you know, when you say that to God, you are literally saying to him, like, please give me your first plan in human being life. That's what I want to my life.
Family.
So that God will make a way.
That's beautiful. Now, I had dinner at your house a couple weeks ago. Your wife is, you know, a very astute businesswoman, very clear, very smart. But the whole time we were having dinner, she was making sure we were taken care of, you were taken care of. You could see that family thing doesn't mean the people with the same last name as her. It's everybody that comes in her house. It's everyone that comes around. What is that born in?
In Brazil, Brazil is very hospital people. Like, you know, they and especially from Ceará, we came. Ceará is like this. If you have a question here, you are in this corner, and where you want to go is 300 feet down the road. He gonna take you there and then come back.
So that's your culture.
Yes. So you know, it's people that treat you very well. It's unbelievable. And then I think we learn from that too. We like to do that too. Like, you know, when we do everything in our house, we make sure that everybody is comfortable and feel very welcome.
I felt very welcome.
So that's like, you know, I think it's important. Like sometimes you go to somebody's house to a dinner, for example, and they give like nothing. It's like, so why you invite someone if you don't want to give any, you know, good thing that you feel? And, you know, we like to serve. I think it's the culture of my mom too, because she's a mineira. She's from Minas Gerais in Brazil. And the people from that region, they are very feminine, and it's the people that unite every Sunday to eat together, things like that. So we have that, you know, very deep in our culture.
I love that. And so, you know, obviously, when I was at your house, you started telling me about some of the projects you're working on. And I'm not going to talk about your projects too much, but like, you own a lot of land and you own a lot of things, and you've been able to accomplish a lot of wealth here in the United States. And people say that, you know, when you start accomplishing a lot and become very wealthy, that it changes you. But in your life, it seems like it's only amplified you. You were always a giver, and now you give more. You were always doing this, and now you do more. Why have you not become jaded? Because you've definitely seen the worst of worst in business. The more money sometimes you make, the easier it is to be taken advantage of as well. And you've experienced that too. What's prevented you from being jaded and being that jerk businessman and only thinking about yourself?
You know, I think that's the base of the education of the family. You know, that we have a lot we owe a lot to my mom.
A lot to your mom.
Yes. My mom is the type of person, my mom, for example, never let us lie.
Tell me more about that.
We couldn't, you know, can't lie. Like, you know, for example, someone call and we don't want to answer the call. Tell that I'm not here. Oh, Rodrigo is here. He's telling me that to tell you that he's not here.
No nonsense, mom, right there.
No, she never. Like, if you cannot involve my mom in a lie. She, you know, because she had that in the so those things, you know, come from the, you know, the education, like, because money and power change everybody. Either for the good or for the bad. That's the thing. Like, if you have a good seed plant,
yep,
then gonna flourish in many good trees.
Right.
But if you have a bad seeds, the money will, you know, there is a common word that I learned from Daniel's grandmother.
Okay.
She said to me one time, when we were talking about this situation, she said one phrase that I kept to myself for the rest of my life. Said, "The money is a good servant, but the worst Lord."
Yes.
So it's the way you put the money in your life. If you put them as your Lord, you know, you're gonna be a very bad person. But if he's just a good servant, because if you give life to the money, then you are giving them a power that a paper will not have without your emotions or intentions or, you know, any feelings from your heart, either jealous or anything else. So you give the power to the money. The money is just a paper, and it's, you know, that's not important. Like, you know, when you lose someone that you love for real, like I lost my grandmother, my grandfather, my father, people that have all appreciate you have in life, then you understand that there is much more good things in life. And then when you look back, you have to see that we are if we choose right, we'll be eternal. And if that happened, what you said, no eyes haven't seen and no ears have heard what God had prepared for the ones who He loves. So then we will understand from the same God that's saying, you have no idea where I'm going to take you through. But if I tell you, to believe will be hard because you're not going to see it. But you're not going to tell. That's the price. You have to believe. And the same God said, what? In this world is on affliction.
Mm-hmm.
So you said, just be okay. Let this pass.
Right.
Because our world is differently. So when you have that perception, then you not be too worried about if you make money, if you lose money, if you are here or you're right over here. What I really care is the way I live my life with my family. If my family is not good, to me, I'm the worst moment in my life. If I don't have money, or because sometimes when you are active investors too, you know how this works. You don't keep cash in the bank. Like if you have a lot of, you buy property, you do things differently. You make much more money than the money in the bank. And sometimes you can find yourself short in cash. That's very common.
Yeah.
But that's the way you deal with everything in life. If you deal you are miserable, and then how are you going to motivate to get out of any situation? But everything, if you plan it out, even when it go bad, but not so bad that you have just explode everything. God, will be in control. So you need to trust.
Love that. So it all goes back to that faith in something bigger than yourself. A trust in the fact that you have value. And I think we both said the same things. We've kind of gone through the same that you have to have faith in something bigger than you. That's important. Now, for me, when I was a kid, I knew there was something bigger and better than me. And I knew there was a God. I just didn't think I was good enough for him. Mm-hmm. So now the next thing you said earlier was that not only do you have to trust that there is a God and he has a plan, but you have to trust that you're worthy of that plan and see your own value. And that's that story of offering a commission, like, hey, I'll do it for 5%, or saying, no, I'm worthy of 50% of the profits.
Exactly.
And I love that. So let's switch gears just for a minute as we start wrapping up here. And thank you so much for taking this time to spend with me. You're 38 years old. You got
48.
I'm sorry, 48 years old. You look like you're 38 years old. These Brazilians, I'll tell you what, man, he's got abs and he's rich. You don't get both. You're not supposed to have gold. It's almost not fair. Okay. Beautiful wife, beautiful family. Your kids are graduating college. They're moving on onto their own. And they're going to start entering the workforce. Hopefully they're entering the workforce with you and your family business. But what are the lessons you're teaching them? Because you and your wife are very successful people. You're the ones that have struck out for your family. And now you're providing this platform for them. Now, a lot of our listeners think that if you make a lot of money, you're going to spoil your kids and they're not going to make it. How are you preventing that from happening? That's the fear of all parents, right? Is that you provide. First, we want to provide for our kids and give them the opportunities that maybe we didn't have. But the other one is you don't want to spoil them so that they can't do the things you did. So what are some practical lessons that you can provide in that? What's Rodrigo's take on that?
This is very important to me because sometimes I feel that I'm boring. Like
you're boring.
Teaching all the time. Take all situations to explain. Oh, see, this is something that you don't do because this. Get all kind of example and different angles to explain things. That's not my idea to be boring, but because you're so worried about the kids, I think conversation is very important.
Right.
And if you want your kids to work together with you, you need to have in your mind that you will work until here so they can come through here forward.
Right.
I cannot put what I think. I cannot put my kids as just below my feet all the time, so them understand that I'm here and they will be down there. No. Right. The idea is if the way they put their hands on it, things like that. If I die, they can take over easily. Right. That's what we have, me and my wife. For example, if I die tomorrow, my wife knows everything of my life. So she will know how to reorganize, do those things and this and that because she has the hands on it.
Right.
I think the next step on this is the kids. Like, but need to be productive. Like, I tell my kids, I say, like, work with me. Like, you're not gonna think that's gonna be a easy thing, because I'm I don't think things delay, things like that. Like, to me, the responsibility, you have to deliver once you promise, things like that. So I think the best way is like, kind of every person that when they start working in any type of industry, they have to internship, and the doctors has to do the what they do, what's the name is the.
Just say it in Portuguese. We'll get it.
Even in Portuguese, I forgot. Is the residency.
Residency.
Yeah, they need to do the residency for 3-4 years because they need to take experience. So I believe, like, I have been taking Leo with me sometimes. When he was, for example, in the high school, when I bought the company in Brazil, I took him for the whole process so he see and understand. And in the middle of the way, we have to give some lessons. Like, he was much younger, like in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was I remember I pulled up in the corner and said, like, hey, listen, we are here. We are buying a company. We're not here to play and things like that. So you're going to sit down at that table in the meeting. We're not going to say anything. And you're going to pay attention until we finish this meeting, okay? Okay,
Yep.
okay. And then, like, the other things too, like, explain my mistakes, I think make them wise.
Yes.
Because, like, the most important thing to me is the open conversation and real conversation. Like, I don't talk about La La Lands. Like, oh, wow, that's gonna be beautiful. No, if it's not, I'm a very practical person. Like, I'm pragmatic. So, this is sometimes like, I can see a plan to do a business and all that. And sometimes if I give my opinion, maybe like too pragmatic, and to them in the age, it's difficult to understand. So the best way in this case, I think, is like bring him with me when it's possible, create that environmental, because that can be created. Like sometimes if you're not studying online, that is a way that you can do in his vacation, in his holidays, or, takes for some business meeting, but, take seriously. Not like as a baby, like, given the responsibility, he needs to sit down at the table and, like all adults and things like that. So that's, to be honest, to tell you that if I have the recipe for what to do right with kids, that's will be the book I'm gonna learn.
Right. Well, here's the reality. Nobody's perfect, and we're trying to figure it out. I remember once I was talking to my son, and one of the tips I wrote down here that I'm going to go over with you in a second, you communicated it, is I remember messing up with my kid and telling my kid, hey, listen, just so you know, you're 8 years old, and I only have 8 years experience doing this. Like, I only have as experienced as you are old to being a parent. So I have a 27-year-old daughter. This is the first time I've ever parented a 27-year-old. This is the first time I've ever given guidance to a 27-year-old woman, like this. So it's different. Yeah. But let me summarize what I think you said, okay? And please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. And you've got kind of 6 steps here. First on, is you want to give your kids a hands-on education. There is value to going to college. I used to really, poop on college, and of course, hypocrite right here, party of one. My kid's up in college at Jacksonville right now. He's co-adulting with me right now. He's adulting up there, and I'm helping him adult right now. So he's getting his hands-on experience, and he's definitely going to come back and hopefully do some internships with me. Number 2 is you wanted your kids at a very young age to be productive, to be doing things that were productive. That's what I heard. The 3rd thing I wrote down is that in that productivity, you had a level of accountability and responsibility to them, even at those young ages, and you've been sowing that into their life. Am I on track so far?
Yes, that's correct.
All right, I'm going to go to number 4 here is, and this is the one that a lot of dads don't do. And this is one of those that you should feel really good about the fact that you did it. And that is they communicated failure. You told your children when you messed up, and you explained to them the lessons you were learning. As a father, as men, we want to be supermen. We want our children to grow up to be supermen like us. So we only demonstrate Superman behavior. We don't demonstrate failure, or we don't explain failure. We hide that. And by the way, it's very hard for our children to see that. Your son, I think he's 21. How old? 21?
21.
21 years old. I asked him a question about you earlier, and I was goofingly saying, like, nobody wants to listen to our dad. Our dads are idiots right now. He's like, my dad's not an idiot. So obviously you've communicated very well to him. Number 5, I wrote down that in the lesson of leaderships that you're teaching your children, you've been real with them. Like, this is a time for us to be very serious. And here's why. We're buying a business. We're not here to have a lot of fun. This is work time. And you were very real with your children. And number 6 that I loved is you've created an environment of success for your children. And you've entered them into the environments of success. So your son's actually here right now doing this interview with us. And he actually took over and is working our soundboard right now. So all of those things, they could seem hokey, like you researched them, but you've made those up so you could put on a good show for me today. But the reality is I'm seeing it happening live and in real person. Did I miss anything?
No. And that's very important, the 6th one, because during this period of time, for example, when he was in the high school, I said, go online, so you're going to travel with me. Like, we went to China to buy materials, important. So he deal with all of that. So we went many different places. So you're going to be traveling with me. So then he moved to online, and that's the way that I was able to create the environmental, because I want him to get graduated. Mm-hmm. Maybe he's not going to use it for anything in his life. Maybe, he's going to take care of a business. But when you sit down with somebody and they ask you, they will be able to say, yeah, as a graduating FIU, I did this. I passed through that process, which require discipline. Mm-hmm. So you are, it doesn't matter if you like it or not. But unfortunately, the world, you need to see how the world sees the things. There is a common word I like. It's it's not only enough be a queen. You need to look like a queen.
Oh, it's not enough to. Let me say that again. It's not enough
to be a queen.
To be a queen,
you have to look like a queen.
So what does that mean?
Because this is a Portuguese common word.
Okay,
things like this. You can have the title of a queen. Mm-hmm. And you dress like a homeless. People, she will say to anybody, I'm a queen. She can be a queen,
right?
But no one's gonna believe. So you need to dress the way you want to be addressed. So that is thing that you need to do, in order to at least people not judge you in the first time. And then they look to your mind and your intelligence. That's the best thing, because some people, if they don't like your style or whatever it is, they don't want to even hear what you say.
Yes, well, that's true.
Maybe you are saving them from something, but you know how people is. People is visualized. They react sometimes what they see.
Yeah.
And in order to do that, you're not gonna lose anything, because it will be a very good experience. He made a good friends. Living in another city, see another dynamic in the city differently. Let's say we grow Orlando, we get in the point, it looks like Miami and needs to be in that kind of environment. He already lived there. So, maybe in the development or, real estate business, he will be able to navigate, put things together, what he learned there and what he learned inside of the company.
Love that. Love that. Love that. There's so many lessons. Even just the way you talk. Because, you're talking about the way you dress that matters, right? Well, you never had a problem with dressing. You're dressing fine. But you actually have a very thick Portuguese accent.
Yeah.
It is a little hard to understand what you say. But when you walk up and meet with somebody, the generosity in which emulates from your eyes, the consciousness that you interact with people with, you don't have to hear that. You can just see that. You can just see when somebody cares. You can see when someone is driven. You can actually feel when you can trust somebody. And those are all the things you're teaching your son. You did not even listen. The reality here is, coming to the United States from another country, you have to acclimate yourself to our monetary system, to our language, to our contracts, to all these things. That didn't stop you. So there's no real reason when you're in the greatest country in the world why you can't be successful. And I think that the very first thing that you talked to us about at the beginning is probably where we should end. You got to believe in yourself. You got to believe in yourself, and you got to believe that if you can't do it with your own strength and power, that there is someone paving a way for you.
Exactly.
And that's your faith.
100%.
Rodrigo, this has been by far one of the greatest interviews I've ever had an opportunity to be part of.
Thank you very much.
And I'm so honored to call you a friend and to call your family a friend. You know, I knew a lot about you before I met you. You know, Daniel, is that your cousin?
Yes, my cousin.
Your cousin Daniel is one of the greatest human beings I've ever met. He's just one of the kindest, gentlest men. And from what I understand, I'm hearing more and more stories. That guy can rip your face off too. Like he's a beast. He's got the ability to do some real things physically, but you would never know that because of his spirit. He's just a good human being, and his wife as well. And I can see it. I get it. Everything you talked about today is real. So for those that are listening to Rodrigo today, and let's be real, it might be a little bit hard to hear some of his words, and I've tried to step in every once in a while to kind of do a little bit of correcting him and making sure you guys got it. But don't listen to that. What I want you to listen to is his heart, and whether you have a faith or you're looking to pursue a faith or your faith is even different. I don't think he said any of that today. Like that was his value. He was giving you his perspective of life and what that looks like. And one of the things that I'd like to make sure we leave with today is that you do matter. You are important. You have value, and that there is someone or something out there greater than you that has a plan for your life. Rodrigo, did I say it all today? I said it. Why don't you give us your final thoughts of what we talked about today? What you feel, look in this camera right here and feel like what the Rodrigo of 10 years ago or Rodrigo of long ago should hear today?
You know, that's remind me and take me back to when I was 5 years old. When I was 5 years old, my mama will remember this because, like, you know, I have private conversation with my mom when I was 5 years old. And I always said to my mom, I said, like, Mom, I'm going to have a family. And I will have 5 boys because at the time I was 5 years old.
Right.
I will have 5 boys because we're gonna have a team, soccer team.
Have a soccer team, okay.
and then my mama asked me, like, what's the name of your first son? I said Rodrigo Schiavo 1, and the second Rodrigo Schiavo 2, Rodrigo Schiavo 3, 5 until the 5. And then I put this in and then I said, my mama, I'm telling you the truth. Like, you see what God's going to do in my life. And you see, I'm going to have my family. I'm going to ride the skateboard with them. I'm going to play soccer, play that. And then when I look that back, I'm 48, turning 48 in March. When I look that back and I see that, like, you know, God is listening to what we say all the time. And that is things that attract to God. And I think that, like, you know, the only thing I try to pass really to my family, my kids, is it doesn't matter. God doesn't look for you if you are perfect or not. But He's listening to you. He's listening in your heart. So if you have open, clean hearts, clean hands and open hearts, He will move in your way. So that's the most important thing that I want to, you know, if I die today, if my kids ask, if someone asks them, what's the, you know, a lesson that your father left to you guys, is we need to be close to God. That's it. Because people create so many guidelines how you can be approached to God, you know. You're not gonna, you know, that's like, you know, you're not perfect, like, you know, He's not gonna listen to you. No, Jesus said, like in the Bible, if you want to speak with God, go in your room, in your private room, in secret. Speak with Him in secret, because in secret, God is going to reward you.
Reward you, okay?
So He didn't say that He's going to answer you. He's going to reward you.
Reward you.
So it's different. And then God, He wants, because when you and Him together, there is no lies, there is nothing, there is no show off, there is nothing. You are only talk with Him alone. And that's what He wants to hear, because that's come from your heart. Like, that conversation is the most pure conversation with God. When if you are upset, if you are any situation you are in your life, but that conversation in private is the only conversation, real conversation that God is listening from his throne. And then I think that, was like, like a key thing that he's been, because who I am, like, I do not deserve more than anybody else from God. Like, what he gave for it is the same for everybody. Jesus Christ, the decision is very easy. It's just you need to recognize him as a son of God. That's the whole the whole gospel of Jesus Christ, and he doesn't require from you nothing more than one decision, and then remain the rest. He will do it the way. So there is nothing mean special that God's, I don't know why this guy is more special than anybody else. No. The difference is the way that is my desire, to get close with him. That's like, and I don't let people put judging me, like saying things that, because of that, doesn't care. If you don't have a personal relationship with God, don't mess with mine. I know this is personal. Everyone knows how you have your personal relationship with God. Amazing. And I feel comfortable because, like, I'm not perfect, but there's one thing that's very, 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 very important. He doesn't look for capable people. He's the one who put those people to be capable. It's different. So, that attracted me since my 5 years old. And I learned with my grandmother, with my mother, and this is like when I met God through my personal relationship, because when I listened to her to tell me, it's a story. But when you leave any situation with God, there is no one that can tell you something different than what you have lived,
That's beautiful. Well, let's wrap this up. But before we do, I'd like for you to teach me a couple of words in Portuguese.
Okay, which one you want to learn?
I want you to teach me how to say...
But you want to learn in Portuguese or you want to learn Cearense? Because there is the two dialects from Brazil.
Whatever you feel most comfortable, because I won't know the difference, okay?
Okay.
Clean hands, open heart.
Mãos limpas e coração puro.
Oh, you're going to have to slow that one down. Let's try it again. Clean hands.
Mãos. Limpas.
Clean. Okay.
Coração puro.
Coração puro. Beautiful. Guys, not a better way to end. Clean hands, open heart. God bless you, Rodrigo. Thank you for your time.
Thank you too. Bye-bye.